Nobody smokes now, because if this person comes close to me, we are going to have quite a big problem. Because this backpack I'm wearing here is usually filled with biogas. And if this person with a cigarette comes close, I mean, you know what happens, you can figure that out. Today it's not filled with biogas, but usually it is filled with biogas. And why I'm telling you this is related to our next keynote speaker. Our next keynote speaker is going to be Katrin. And she's the head and the heart of B Energy. And she's going to share an amazing journey with us. So please have a warm welcome with Katrin on stage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Falco. Let's see if these people are ready for a bit of a disruptive presentation. We've had so much great food for thought, so many inspiring presentations. I want to share a little bit about a bit of a critical topic with you. Dead aid versus social business. First of all, I have a question for you. Who of you guys has a car like this or better? Can you raise your hand? Do you have a car better than this or as good as this? Some people. Great. So this is actually my car. I worked a long time for this. I worked really hard, and I spent so many years watching my friends go and party and enjoy life while I was working. But finally, I'm super proud to own this kind of car. Now what happened? There was this African NGO that came to Europe. They did a feasibility study, and they found out just exactly what you just showed me. Not everybody in Europe has a car. And as an African, one thing they think is really tough is winter. So they thought, how is this possible that all these poor European people don't have a car? How do they get around in winter? This is torture. So they went back. They collected a lot of money to come back with something like this. This is the Gili Giggle Panda. You might have seen this car before. Anyway, they thought it's a great idea to bring this car to these poor European people who don't have a car yet. So they donated these cars. What is the first reaction of the people? Great. Awesome, I have a car now. I didn't even pay for it. After a few months, you find out a car is actually quite expensive. You have to pay for insurance, you have to pay for fuel. If it's broken, you have to go to a garage. Damn. What about the car industry? What did they think about this activity? They were not so impressed, because in the next 5 years, nobody was actually buying a car. Whether they wanted a Giggle Panda before or a Mercedes, still, if you have one, you keep it. What about all the people who were working in the car industry who are now unemployed? What about the government that's missing out on tax revenues? What about the public transport companies? Nobody's using buses and trains anymore. Anyway, there's quite a list of negative impact on this kind of activity of African NGOs in Europe. And what happened to me, actually, working hard for years and years, while my lazy friends were partying, they got a better car than me now. So I'm totally disappointed with this world. I think this is super unfair. I sell my car, I buy a beach chair, sit at the beach, and do nothing anymore. So I'm totally fed up. Of course, you guys know this is a super invented story, and doesn't really make sense in Europe. Who of you guys, may I ask you, has ever helped or tried to help a poor person with money? Have you ever put money into a beggar's hat, or have you donated for a charity, for an NGO to reach GDPs? Raise your hand, please. You're pretty good people. And I suggest, I suppose you did this out of good intention and not because you wanted to harm anybody, right? There are projects out there like this one here of Viva Con Agua donating water pipes to, or collecting money to run water pipes in African countries where people don't have tap water. Or NGOs that collect money to be able to donate improved cook stoves for people who are forced to cook on open fires. The world is pretty black and white. It's either dark or bright at night. So you can see where development is happening and where it's not happening. So now if you do a bit of an experiment and you experiment and you delete black from this picture, what is going to happen? All the places where there's no people disappear. Oceans, ice fields, deserts, forests disappear. No people, no light. What about places where there's not so much development happening? Also disappear. Australia's gone. There are no people there. What about in the middle of this map? There's a big hole. This is Africa. Why are there suddenly no people? No, this is not what happened. There are a lot of people. There's a lot of aid. After 50 or more than 50 years of aid and more than $3 trillion that went into this continent, it is still dark at night. Why is this possible? If you ask Dambisa Moyo, she's quite a famous Zambian economist, she says, aid is not part of the solution. In fact, it is the problem. Oh, aid. So if you ask Peter Thomas Bauer, also a famous economist doing research on this topic, he says aid is actually the redistribution of money from poor people in rich countries to, and this is important, rich people in poor countries. And this is done in a really chaotic way. Nobody really coordinates this, and the outcome is dark Africa. To put some figures behind these assumptions, have a look at what actually happened to growth while aid was increasing continuously since the 70s. Growth was actually decreasing continuously and got stuck at a very low level. How is this possible? Maybe because the money went to the wrong people. Maybe because we withdraw responsibilities from the people who are responsible to do certain jobs. By doing this, we support more functioning systems and we actually increase poverty. Let me give you an example. Oh, sorry, this is too fast. Maybe donating water taps or water pipes is not the right approach. Maybe somebody is actually responsible for taking care of something as basic as water in a society, and it should normally be the government. If we as foreigners come in because of pity for the people, we actually do the job of somebody in that country who is very much happy if you do it for him because next time he also doesn't care. There is another thing that I want to share with you that we can't change with money, that is trust. And you'd be surprised to see how trust and income are actually related. In countries where there's very low trust between people or from people to government, income is also at a very low level. And the higher the trust level, the higher the income level, which makes total sense. But how do we change this with money from outside? There is something called the micro-macro paradox. Imagine a country that has a lot of malaria. There is a company that employs 10 people, 150 relatives are supported by these people that produce mosquito nets and they sell them in the country. Now comes somebody like Bono or Bob Geldof, some famous person who thinks, let's do something about this horrible malaria problem, collects $1 million, buys mosquito nets somewhere in the US, brings them to this country, disseminates them for free. What's going to happen to this business? They're gone. They're finished. After 5 years, mosquito nets are broken, Bono has left, this company doesn't exist. Is the situation better or worse than before? So it's worse. So we've destroyed this little growth of economy, we've destroyed with a one-time donation. That's why growth doesn't increase with the amount of aid that we're pouring in. And that's also the same thing that's going to happen in the case of improved cook stoves. If there has ever been a cook stove producer in Burma, he's certainly gone now when free products flood the market. And we don't have to be so smart today because Einstein already knew it 100 years ago, whatever costs nothing is worth nothing. So maybe we should think about the approach. And what could we do instead? Just a few examples. Maybe we should consider relaxing our trade barriers or changing our policies regarding the subsidy in the West, in the agricultural sector, or maybe we have to make governments more responsible for the use of the money. However, let's get back to Earth and see what happens in the energy reality, for example, in East Africa, because we're here to talk about energy, and I want to share with you an example of my world. I work in this energy sector. So what we have is people struggle for cooking energy because they're using super inefficient technologies to cook on, mostly open fires. They deforest the areas completely. They combust everything that's somehow combustible, and they end up with really smoky kitchens, #1 environmental cause of death in Africa. And what does this lead to? To more poverty. So to get out of this vicious cycle, what could we do? I'm not the one who came up with the idea in the first place to introduce biogas. But the way it has been introduced until now is a little bit related to what I told you before, because it is 100% subsidy and aid driven, and it will never be independent. Because a person who installs a biogas system, who qualifies to install a biogas system under programs, will never actually make money with these systems. They might save on energy expenses. I think this is not enough. So it's not all so black, but there's some hope. Maybe you have heard of Mohamed Yunus. He is the father of social business and microfinance, microcredits. And he says the difference between rich and poor is actually not money. So what could it be? It is opportunity. It's the opportunity to do something about your situation. If you have that opportunity, you should use it. If you don't have it, maybe we can provide it. Maybe we, as white people, can rather work on creating opportunities instead of providing solutions. So what is a social business? Just a few words. A social business in general is a company that has one aim: to fight the poverty problem, to reduce poverty. But there are two different ways to do this. Either as a company that reinvests the profit to increase impact, or as a small business for the poor that aims to reduce poverty by profit making for this poor person. So B Energy, my company that deals with mobile biogas solutions, is a social business that tries to bring products on the market that solve a social problem, which is the energy problem that many people are facing. But we're including a business model for our customers, which is the business for them. I'll show you more about this. How this works is based on 3 pillars. We have a technology that we provide to the market. We have the business model for the customers, and we have a shared responsibility to spread all over the world. So let's have a look at the technology. You've seen a small part of it, the biogas backpack, but it starts with the production unit of biogas, the biogas digester, which is in this case just a bag digester, a big bag on the ground inside a greenhouse that you feed with organic waste. The gas is produced naturally at temperatures above 25 degrees, and it can flow into the biogas storage bag, the B-pack, that is connected directly to this digester. It fills up with gas automatically, and once it's full, you can weigh it down, connect it to a stove, and you can cook. It is very simple. There is no rocket science behind this. But, and this is now the unique thing about B Energy, you can also transport this gas. I talked about biogas systems not being worth it because you can't make money with it. In this case, you can. Because if you have more than enough substrate to produce gas for yourself, you can produce more gas and sell the excess gas in this biogas backpack to your neighbors. That means you become independent, although this might look a little bit weird at the beginning, but you become independent from any kind of aid money that you needed before to be able to build a biogas system. And then with the stove, it's a normal, very simple gas stove you can cook. This is the technology. Now, the business model for a customer. Whoever builds a biogas system can potentially become an entrepreneur by producing two products, the biogas and the fertilizer, which comes out of the biogas system at the other end. So these two products are very valuable, especially for farmers. They can sell the gas, they can sell the fertilizer. So the entrepreneur makes some money until he has paid off the system, or after he has paid off the system, you can use this additional income to either buy additional substrate to produce more gas to make more money, or to expand the system by just adding another biogas digester. Or he can just continue like this. So now, I can tell you, unfortunately, it's not about the right technology. It's more about the right approach. How to reach the customers, who are normally very traditional people in our case. So I, as a franchisor from Germany, I cannot do this alone. So I need partners all over the world who take responsibility for bringing this technology into their country and then serve the actual customers. How is this done in reality? B-Energy Germany becomes actually quite small. We provide the know-how and the technology either to franchisees who manufacture locally or to dealers who import the technology, and then provide the technology to the agents. And the agents are people, local people in the villages who learn how to install biogas systems and promote it to their customers in the remote places. And about the shared responsibility, there is one thing I want to share with you. They are the Bee Angels, because B-Energy Germany is unfortunately only me. But this is a bit of a big job, so I need the help of angels, actually. They are people, they are professionals in their field who contribute to the success of B-Energy, and I can tell you there is potential for more to get involved. So if any one of you is interested, we can talk the next few days. There is quite some work that I cannot do due to my limited capacities. Not only time capacity, but also knowledge capacity. So there's one thing that I want to give you on the way about shared responsibility, because I think we all share one responsibility, which is to create a world, or at least contribute to creating a world that we want to live in the future, and that is also livable for our kids and their kids. So if we look at, for example, the problem of poverty as an iceberg, you see the tip of the iceberg, that's visible. That's the symptom of poverty. That's what we're working on at the moment with direct services, with donations, with projects, with reports. So we're polishing the surface really nice. What nobody really looks at is what's under the surface, which is the system that might not be working the way we think it is. And we might have to work on changing the system. Direct services is something like giving people fish. Changing the system is something like teaching people to fish. But if you're a real social entrepreneur, you do not stop with teaching people to fish. You want to really revolutionize the fishing industry. So that means you probably have to change mindsets to really make a difference and to really get to the root of this problem. So I want to encourage you, because we've been talking a lot about you can be the change makers, but it is easily said and it's not so easily done, because it requires a lot of confidence, and it requires to follow your heart more than anything. You have to have the confidence to believe that you can be the one, and you might be the only one who can tackle that particular problem that you see in the society. So I want to encourage you to trust yourself, trust your heart. If something tells you this is not right, I want to see this change. Be the one to do it. Be the one to start it. It doesn't require money. I can prove you that I started this without any money. And although I can't report of the greatest success in terms of money, it is quite known by now. And it is probably only the confidence that I have that brought me that far. And I can also promise you, you'll find more and more people who support you, and you create a community of change makers around you that is very much encouraging. So I can only motivate you. Take the chance. Use the opportunity you have, because you wouldn't be here if you were content with everything that's happening. Thank you very much.